5 Live Formula One.
Welcome to the checkered flag, where qualifying for the Italian Grand Prix has just roared to a close under the blazing sun. The Temple of Speed lived up to its name this afternoon. Scarlet flags flying, engines screaming through the parkland, the Tifosi turning every lap into a festival of noise, and Max Verstappen setting the fastest lap in Formula One history and taking pole position ahead of Lando Norris, with Oscar Piastri in third. My name's Harry Benjamin. Alongside me to have a little debrief after qualifying is Jenny Gow and British racing driver Alice Powell. And Jenny, I mean, let's start with mighty Max. He certainly sprinkled the magic, didn't he, in that final lap?
He really did. And where did that come from? I mean, I know this weekend they've been looking a little bit better, but where did he pull that lap from? It was beautiful. Just watching him go around this Temple of... I mean, the Temple of Speed was exactly what it was. And it was... We all bowed down to his greatness. He just, every time, he just surprises you and you go, oh, okay, he's back.
He always surprises us, though, doesn't he? Never rule him out. And we were surprised by him, because we didn't expect to see this pole position pace from Max, and it was a super job by him. And we were all expecting a McLaren pole position, also maybe thinking, could we possibly get a Ferrari pole position? But no, Max Verstappen, I mean, you've got to take your hat off to him, because he's, even when he hasn't got the fastest car, he still manages to pull out a sensational result.
And that he did, and taking that record of the fastest lap in Formula One history, 264.682 kilometres per hour averaging speed around the Temple of Speed. Where better to do it? Tell you what, let's hear from the pole sitter, Verstappen.
I think the whole weekend was quite good, but we always seem to lack like a little bit. But I knew that if we could find a little bit more going into qualifying, then it might be possible. And that's exactly what happened, luckily.
Yeah, absolutely top performance. And what about tomorrow, though? When it comes to race pace, how confident are you with that you can stay ahead of those two McLarens and the rest of the field?
Yeah, so that, of course, this season has been a little bit more difficult for us, the race pace. So I expect them to be very strong tomorrow, McLaren especially. They're normally, a bit stronger in the race than qualifying, I think, if you look at the whole season so far. But as long as I have a good feeling with the car tomorrow, it's behaving on its tires, then maybe we can give it a good fight.
Max Verstappen then taking his fifth pole of the season, chatting with Jenny after qualifying. And Jen, you know, he's got the best view in the house, but it's this run down to the first chicane, isn't it, turn one, that makes this place quite exciting. He'll have Lando Norris alongside him. And really, I suppose the threat is that Verstappen has nothing to lose here.
Well, you talk to the drivers and they all think they've got nothing to lose. It's really interesting going into a race like this that they have that mentality. They're just going for it. Each one of them has their own reason why they can risk it all. They can go for the win. They don't have to reserve and hold back. But they all point out as well that it's a very narrow track when you go down to turn one. There's not that much wiggle room. And we saw last year, didn't we, with Norris and Piastri, it doesn't take much to upset the apple cart. So let's see how the apple cart fares tomorrow.
It's also signs, I think, Alice, that Red Bull are kind of regaining their form a little bit. They've had a rough run, very up and down, fluctuating. Verstappen obviously hasn't been happy with how it's been going. His last pole position was at Silverstone for the British Grand Prix. So this will be an encouraging sign for him in these last, 8 races after tomorrow.
It will. It certainly will. But I think the thing to note is we're expecting McLaren to still have the stronger race pace. But as Jenny's already mentioned, that very tight entry into turn one, it's very tight through the chicane 1 and 2, and then you have that run up to Curva Grande into another heavy braking zone of 4 or 5, the De La Roja chicane. So a lot can go wrong in that opening lap there. And Max Verstappen, hey, look, he mathematically, he can still win the championship. A lot has to go wrong for the two McLarens. But Lando, Piastri, they're going to give it a go, but they will be keeping in the back of their mind that Max has nothing to lose. And we've seen how Max races when he has got something to lose. He still gets his elbows out. So that's something that the McLarens have kind of got to be a little bit wary of. But then they're in nothing to lose sandwich, really, because Charles Leclerc, who is starting the Grand Prix in pole position, in fourth position, shall I say, won from there last year. So again, he has nothing to lose. He's going to try and roar forward in front of a home Ferrari crowd.
And Alice, speaking to Max, he was very adamant in saying that they learnt so much from last year. This wasn't a great race for them last time out, but this year they've used all of the learnings they had from 24 to fuel them to get the advantage into 25, and the car balance, it was learning on that, the way that the car is set up, the rear wing, the front wing, all of those things are learnings from last year applied this year. And it's no great surprise to me that actually Red Bull have managed to harness that power that they sometimes have and sometimes didn't, but the car looked better all weekend.
It has looked better all weekend. I was saying that in the first couple of practice sessions, it was quite obvious. Max was on the radio saying he just has no grip, and they've chipped away, worked away, and they've kind of remained through it in the practice sessions around about 2/10 off the pace. But secretly, it seems to be that maybe they did dial all the car issues out, or maybe they did leave something up their sleeve to come to qualifying. But Red Bull, they've learned. All the teams are learning. Every time they hit the track, the teams are learning, the drivers are learning. Things change all the time in Formula One. It's a development race, as you often say, Harry, and that certainly is 100% correct. And Max and Red Bull have delivered today, and Lando Norris has done what he kind of needed to do. Of course, he would have loved pole position, but vitally, he's ahead of Oscar Piastri.
77 thousandths of a second is what secured Max Verstappen pole position ahead of Lando Norris then, who needs to bounce back after the retirement in the Dutch Grand Prix. Of course, he's chasing that 34-point gap as well. And actually, Jen, it was a scrappy Q2, wasn't it, for Lando Norris? So actually, from looking like the man who was the man to beat, suddenly it was recovery mode for Norris.
Yeah, you'll hear from him in a moment, I'm sure, and he says just that. But it was scrappy, and it wasn't just Q2 that was scrappy. It felt like the whole thing was scrappy, and he was constantly on the back foot. And then all of a sudden, and Alice, you can talk us through it probably more than I can even eloquate it, but suddenly he found a whole chunk of time which propelled him really up to the front row, and how he managed to do that is beyond me, because having that focus and being able to refine that form when he'd had such troubles going into it was outstanding.
He definitely gathered himself together. He had that lock-up in Q2, which meant that he actually, with about 5 minutes remaining of the session, he hadn't even put a time on the board. He had to come in, had that lock-up. He flat-spotted the tyre, wasn't able to do a time, got the tyre changed, the whole brand new set, actually, of soft tyres back out, and it was looking touch and go. He nearly didn't make it through to the final part of qualifying, but he delivered, pulled it out the bag. And as you said, Jenny, it wasn't looking like it was going to be a great Q3 for Lando, but he found a chunk of time in that final sector when it was really needed, and maybe he did have a word with himself and say, look, you are going to throw away any hopes of winning this championship if you don't sort your life out, essentially. And that's what he did.
Sort your life out,
well,
Lando.
Maybe that's what he said to himself. You know, he's quite critical on himself.
Is that what you would have said to him, Alice?
I wouldn't have said it to him. I would have said that to myself if I was in Lando's shoes. But Lando, he knows what he's got to do. He has to beat Oscar, and that's what he's done. But tomorrow it's going to be a tough. It'll be a tough challenge to keep Oscar behind, but he's more than capable of doing so. But of course, we've got that added Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc element as well.
Well, Lando Norris has out-qualified his teammate Oscar Piastri for the first time since Belgium. Starts on the front row in second. Here he is talking to Jen.
The margins, Lando, they're so tight. 0.077 was the difference between you and Max. But actually, starting from pole last 5 years hasn't helped.
Yeah, true. But I mean, the reason I didn't win last year was it was a stupid one. So
No repeats of that this year, though.
no. Don't you worry. So yeah, I hope that that kind of little record is not broken tomorrow. But yeah, I still believe we have a good race car. We still have a good car. It's been tricky in the low fuel runs. We've struggled a little bit the whole weekend with just confidence and repeatability. But normally our race pace is a little bit better. So I still hope, although this is a very different track, I still hope that's the case tomorrow.
Are you more worried about the person behind you than you are the person in front of you tomorrow?
No. I mean, you got the Ferraris, you got the Mercedes. Like the Ferraris, the straight line speed is ridiculous comparing to ours. So I'm pretty more worried about them than anyone else. But I have someone to stay ahead of, and I have someone also to get ahead of. So we'll see what I can do.
Okay, so Lando Norris then, front row, ahead of teammate Piastri. But I wonder, he was sort of a little bit on the fence there, Alice. He's ahead of Piastri, but he's behind Verstappen. We know from last year, Verstappen and Norris, turn one of lap one can be quite entertaining. But equally, where is your focus going to be when you're Norris in the run down to turn one? Is it try and get ahead of Max Verstappen, or is it just keep Oscar behind me?
I mean, ideally, if he can get ahead of Max Verstappen and have Max in between him and Oscar, that's going to be ideal for him. So that's what he needs to do, essentially. But getting it off the line, he's on the dirtier side of the grid. He's got to get his McLaren off the line, and then it's making a decision where you go. It's hard to plan a start here at Monza. But yeah, that'll be ideal. You can't worry about what's happening behind you. He's got to look forward. Of course, when it goes down into turn one, he's going to be having a look left and right in his mirrors, keeping an eye on where Piastri is going to be, Leclerc, etc. George Russell will be starting in 5th place because of Lewis Hamilton's 5-place grid penalty. All eyes forward.
They are indeed. It's a 476-metre run from pole to the turn one braking zone. So it will be all eyes forward for Lando Norris, but he'll have one car at least in front of him to begin with. Oscar Piastri on the other side of the garage will start in 3rd behind his teammate. But I wonder, Jenny, it just didn't seem like he actually had the out-and-out pace to beat Norris this weekend so far.
No, I think it's very tight, and I think when you don't have as much resting on something, can you pull out that optimal performance? I don't know. And Piastri's put together some amazing laps. This one wasn't amazing, and I don't think he expected either Max Verstappen to go quite as quick as he did, and for Lando Norris to put some form together after he was in the garage. He could see he was in trouble. So maybe he thought he'd done enough. But actually, a question for Alice, is P3 actually one of the best places to start this Grand Prix?
I mean, I guess pole position is the best place to start.
But
you get a clean
they
run.
haven't won from pole for the last 5 years. Statistically, 40% chance of winning from pole conversion. And you have someone to slipstream behind if you're Piastri.
I mean, the thing is,
tell me if I'm talking rubbish. That's fine.
I think if you said to Oscar, would you rather start on pole or 3rd, he's going to say pole position because it can give you the best. Okay, the statistics might say otherwise, but you essentially could be out of the danger zone. If he doesn't get a very good start, he sinks into the pack. He sinks into 4th, 5th, 6th potentially, and that is a real danger zone when everyone's trying to funnel through. So, has he got the best starting position? I wouldn't say so. If he gets a great launch off the line, he could tow up past the two in front of him. But there's a lot of variabilities that stand sort of from starting in 3rd place. There's a lot of things that can go right. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. But I think if you asked him that question, he'd say, look, pole position, clear track, that's where I would have wanted to be, potentially out of a danger zone.
Well, let's hear it from the Aussie. Qualified 3rd. Here he is.
I mean, I think everyone gets some nerves on the start line. I think if you're not a little bit nervous in that scenario, there's probably something wrong. I mean, there's some nerves there, but I think it's all about how you can use it. And feel like generally I do a good job of using it and getting myself in the right place. So I'll try and do that again tomorrow.
Oscar Piastri then third behind his teammates and Max Verstappen, but all not yet lost for the championship leader, clear by 34 points. Right, that's the top three. And then we had the first of the prancing horses, Jenny. So much pressure, obviously, on Ferrari this weekend. Charles Leclerc, the best of them, in fourth. Do you think he was genuinely in the fight for pole? There was a part of me that thought in my heart he could have done it.
I had the same feeling, Harry. I thought, this is Ferrari land. This is his track. It's just poetic that he should be on pole, but actually, I don't think they even had that in their locker. And certainly speaking to Charles, he didn't think he had it in his locker, which is always interesting to hear from the driver. You think, was it there? Was pole a possibility? And, well, Leclerc definitely said no.
Well, let's hear from the man who won the race last year from the place he's qualified in fourth, speaking with Jen.
That was, I think, one of the best laps I did this season, honestly. I mean, it was a really, really good lap. Fortunately, on the second lap, we had to go out to make the lap, and I had kind of nobody in front, so it was tricky to improve. But I think we did a good job, and I don't think there was anything more in the car.
I mean, starting P4 tomorrow, you've got the whole hopes of Italy on your shoulders. It's not much, nothing to worry home about, it's fine. How do you feel ahead of the race? What do you think you can achieve?
I'm looking forward to tomorrow. I don't think that realistically we can target to win, because I think the Red Bulls and the McLaren are just too strong this weekend. But that's kind of what we expected. We expected it to be close, but we expected them to have the upper hand, and I guess we anticipated all that quite well. Unfortunately, it's disappointing because you always hope for a surprise, but there's been no surprise so far. But tomorrow is a race, and I'll give it all to try and make something special.
Charles Leclerc then P4. He could be a bit of a factor though, right, Alice, to watch out for in the race. We know he mastered a beautiful one-stop strategy here last year to kind of scupper the McLarens, who also had their own little fight and trip over each other in the first lap. But equally, if he could get ahead of Oscar Piastri in the run down to turn one, well then for the championship sakes, it's still game on.
They are fast in a straight line. They've been the strongest, in that first sector, which is pretty much majority of of course it's from the start line all the way through to turn 4. Only one braking zone, and it's flat for the rest of it. And they're fast, so that's what Lando, Oscar have got to be mindful of. Is the toe here is effective. DRS not so much in places that we go to, mainly because of the downforce that's trimmed off of these cars to deal with the long straights and where they can gain time there. So it could be a dark horse. I think he's one to certainly keep an eye on. He doesn't seem to feel that he's got the pace in the race, but like you said, he could make his strategy work, and who knows what could happen to these top three if they do trip over each other.
Well, we heard from Lando, and even he said the Ferraris are like a rocket ship, fastest in the speed traps down the straight. So, and that is Monza. It's a straight down to a chicane, then a slightly curved straight down to another chicane, small straight, 2 curves, another long straight, slight chicane, another straight, and then you're back round on a lap again. So that could prove crucial across
Harry,
the 53 laps.
I think the one problem that they might have is that strategy isn't going to vary too much tomorrow unless we have something freaky going on, or a safety car, virtual safety car. It looks like it will just be a one-stop, starting on the medium or hard and then flipping over. If you're at the back of the grid, maybe start on the hard to differ it up. But there isn't that massive strategy divergence here at Monza, so it's going to be very tough for anyone to do some massive overtaking moves. And I think that's what all the drivers were fearing, that it might just be a follow the leader exercise, and that's not what anyone wants around here.
Well, that's certainly not what Lewis Hamilton wants to hear, right? Because he qualified
exactly.
5th, but he's got a 5-place grid penalty. So he's saying his options are limited, Jen.
I think so. I mean, the Tifosi will be cheering him and Leclerc and Kimi Antonelli on. And Lewis was speaking in the pen about the fact that he really finds an extra strength from the Tifosi, and it's quite different from the Silverstone crowd. And the passion, it's almost like a religion to these fans. And that will spur him on, because Lewis reacts well to that. But how much can he do? How much can he offer? And he's going to have to stay out of trouble, and that is all around him, starting P10. He's got Tsunoda just ahead of him. He's got Behrman to the left of him, and it's danger zone territory, isn't it? And if he crashes out here, people will leave.
I mean, he's a 5-time winner around here, so he knows how to win, but that's not probably going to be on the cards tomorrow. But like I said, staying out of trouble is going to be the key thing, in the middle, bang in the middle of the pack. But you know, he's wise. He knows he's faster than the cars that he's got behind him, of course, and in front of him, at least up to George Russell. So he's going to give it his all, and yeah, the crowd will be cheering him every step of the way. They've been cheering for Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton every time they've gone past the big grandstand on the main straight, and every time they pulled out of pit lane as well.
Yeah, it will, I'm sure, be a tough afternoon for Lewis Hamilton, but let's see what he can do. He is now being out-qualified by Leclerc 12-4 this season. So we know how good, though, Charles Leclerc is over one lap as Lewis Hamilton continues to get up to speed with his new surroundings. Hamilton qualified 5th. He'll have that 5-place grid penalty, which will drop him down. That will then promote George Russell and Kimi Antonelli up to 5th and 6th. Then in 7th will be Bortoletto. 8th will be Alonso, then 9th comes Yuki Tsunoda with Lewis Hamilton in 10th. Have to say, though, Jenny, a couple of standouts there, getting themselves into the top 10. Gabby Bortoletto in the Sauber, and strong result for Kimi Antonelli, who I think he needed that, pretty close to George Russell by the end of Q3.
Yeah, I think both men needed that so much for their confidence. And speaking to them after qualifying, you could tell Kimi Antonelli was buoyed by that. He's taken a lot of time and knowledge from Imola, his first Italian Grand Prix, and not true Italian Grand Prix, I suppose. And he learned from that and learned how to handle his weekend better. And coming into this weekend, he really needed to get a result down for himself, not just for the Italian fans, not just for the team, but to grow confidence. And that's exactly what he did, and it's a great result for him, and I think it can really spur his season back to some sort of form if he can keep it well tomorrow on the racetrack. And starting P6, you know, that's good. That's a really good territory, and he's alongside his teammate in George Russell, so I think that'll give him great confidence. And Tsunoda, wow, did he need that lift?
He did. Tsunoda finally getting himself into Q3. I think also, though, just a word, Alice, on Bortoletto as well, another outstanding result for him. That Sauber has come on leaps and bounds over the course of the season. He'll start ahead of his manager, Fernando Alonso. And those two actually have been together on track a few times this year. But Bortoletto now has the pleasure of being ahead of the Spaniard. And again, out-qualifies Nico Hülkenberg.
I'm really impressed with him. He just seems to be coming on in leaps and bounds. He had a few tricky races. Silverstone was one of those, but it was tricky conditions. But no, he knows how to win round here. Not saying he's going to be in the chance for a win tomorrow, but became the first ever driver to win a Formula 2 race from last on the grid last year. A mega drive through the field in the feature race. Likes this circuit, but regardless whether he likes it or not, he's doing a real good job.
Outside of the top 10, Ollie Behrman just missed out in 11th ahead of Hülkenberg. The two Williams, disappointment for them. They were looking strong at the beginning of the weekend, faded away in qualifying. Sainz ahead of Albon, though, 13th and 14th. Ocon, the top 15. Really disappointing day for the two Racing Bulls cars. Isaac Hadjar, 16th. Liam Lawson, 20th and last. In between them, Lance Stroll down in 17th. Colapinto ahead of his teammate Pierre Gasly. So while Alpine have looked a little slow round here, Colapinto getting the edge on his teammate for the third time, so things are looking slightly more optimistic for the Argentine driver, but I think it will be another long afternoon for them tomorrow. And yes, Lawson props up the field. Right, okay, 53 laps for Sunday's Italian Grand Prix, round 16 of the Formula One World Championship. Jenny Gow, who's winning the race?
Just on a side note, sorry, I just wanted to pull up the Williams performance because it didn't go well today, and I think they will perform better tomorrow, so they could be in the mix of something. And I think if you're looking to who will get the most amount of overtakes, I think you have to look towards Sainz and Albon in that Williams. They just struggled on their tyres, and it's a problem that keeps reoccurring on these softer tyres, and they just say for some reason they can't find a sweet spot. Fernando Alonso found that sweet spot today and tapped into it in the Aston Martin, but Williams will go better tomorrow. They're not in with a chance of winning this race, we know that. So who is? That's the question you asked me. I've not done very well, Harry, in actually answering your questions. I do apologise. I think Leclerc. Let's go for a back-to-back victory around this hallowed track.
Going with your heart, Alice?
I was thinking Leclerc, but I'm not going to go with. I'm going to go with someone different. I think it's going to be a Lando Norris victory if he can clear Max Verstappen, and that's the question: if he can clear Max Verstappen.
Okay, I'm going to go for Oscar Piastri. It's going to win. We shall see what happens. You can listen to it all on 5 Live. It's lights out from 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Hope you can join us for it. Max Verstappen on pole, Lando Norris alongside with the championship leader, Oscar Piastri, sitting in third. Looking forward to this one. This has been an IMG production for BBC Radio 5 Live.